It's March 26, 2025. Welcome back. YieldMax announced their Group B dividend distributions as posted on their X account. Just some notable ones. Palantir is $5.32. NVDY 78 cents. Let's see, Facebook 55 cents. As for the weekly pairs, LFGY was 47 cents, and YMAX and YMAG were 13 and 8 cents. And then the new weekly one, ULTY, or at least as of the last few weeks, came in at 9 cents, almost 10 cents, which is pretty standard with previous weeks. When you take those payouts, put them in a spreadsheet, you can get a more relative breakdown for what they're paying relative to the ETF price or the NAV. And you can see that for the Group B monthly pairs, we have MRNY and Palantir. Palantir is almost 8%. Like I said, the 594 dividend or 533 dividend distribution was pretty high. It does have a higher NAV, $67.02 as of this moment, but 8% is very solid, almost 100% annual payout at that rate. And you also have MRNY. MRNY's been a bad investment for those who've been in it since inception. But for new investors at $3.22 for the ETF price, the 18-cent distribution did come out at a 5.68% distribution rate for the month, or about 70% annualized. So that's, I guess in my opinion, pretty good. But then MARO 2 down here was also at almost 6%. It's a $24 current ETF price, which I guess isn't the best considering it started at 50 per my recollection. But the $1.48 relative to the current NAV is almost 6%, so that's pretty solid. I do have the previous distributions noted in column G here. So on a relative basis, you can see NVDY is down 79 cents from $1.61 last month. Dips was pretty standard. Facebook, pretty standard, right around 50 cents. The GDXY, 64 cents, which is higher than 44 cents last month. Gold's been kind of been in rally mode for a while, so I assume some elevated volatility there is pumping that one up near 4% for the month. And then we got BABO. That was only 76% or 76 cents, $1.92 last month, so down a little bit there. I assume that was earnings related. Earnings was the last month. Could be wrong, but just my thought. And then JP Morgan's always pretty low. I never expect that one to be too far above the 2% monthly, as it's a low volatility name in the financial sector. But 2% a month comes to a 26% annualized yield. So not too bad there for those who are looking for a more lower volatility name. And then for the weeklies, just wanted to highlight a couple. LFGY, 47 cents, pretty standard, right around 50 cents per week, which is coming at 1.24% for the week, or 64% annualized. That one stands out to me as a decent investment. I know the NAV's deteriorated a bit, but that one's looking pretty good. And then ULTY, I know people always expect a lot of ULTY. Then with it going weekly, I see some negative comments on social media, but if you're looking at it at 6.59 cents, paying a 10 cent per week dividend, that does come to 1.5% for the week, or 77, almost 78% annualized. So something to consider. And then as far as this video, I guess I wanted to dive into NVDY and give you some kind of illustrative options for how that fund has performed recently, or I guess not recently, but since the inception date. And if you go specifically to its YieldMax website here, you can see it has I think I passed it. No, I didn't. If you go down and look at the fund data and pricing, as well as the fund information, you can see it had an inception date of 5/10/2023. So as I've done with a few of these other ETFs, I wanted to visualize how the funds performed, since a lot of the return in these funds is through the distribution and the cumulative distribution, or taking the distribution, adding it up over time. I wanted to put that into an illustrative perspective, showing how one who bought, let's say 100 shares at the fund inception, would have done since that time. So I believe this, since the inception price was around $20 a share, so that would have been $2,000 investment. So jumping over to Tableau Public quick, which Tableau Public is a place you can publicly display illustrative data others can use as well. Basically, take a spreadsheet of some sort and plug it in, and you can play around with it and make pretty good visualizations of data to see them in a different way. For me personally, visualizing the data helps me a lot more than just looking at it on a spreadsheet. You can actually see stuff, and my mind grasps it from a more of a relative perspective. But so to start off with, here is NVIDIA. You can go out. I'll put a link to this in my description below if you want to go see it. But NVIDIA, or NVDY, I should say, the first graph I got here is 3 investment options. The first one's if you took $2,000 and invested in the NVDY and did not reinvest your dividends. So $2,000 starting in May 2023 till now. I do not have the latest dividend information in here, so you can add another like 70 cents or so. But you can see your investment would be $4,543. The other option I'd have is you reinvest your dividends. So reinvesting your dividends would come out to almost $5,400 or $5,399 to be specific. Excuse me, to be specific. And then the last option is what if you just own the underlying stock, which although NVIDIA has been performing a bit volatile currently or right now, going up and down, you can see since inception in the middle of, or I guess May of 2023, your investment would now be $8,319. So clearly investing in underlying stock in this case, it would have been the best option. However, you would have required the foresight to see how much NVIDIA underlying stock would have run in that time frame. But there's the investment options. I did this last time with Snowflake. That one was unique, or I guess not unique, but different in that I believe investing in the SNOY, the YieldMax ETF, and reinvesting your dividends was actually a better option than investing in the underlying stock. But for NVIDIA, the best option was definitely investing in the underlying stock. And then a couple other items just to share. So I got the distribution per share since inception. So you can see how the distribution has been over time, kind of assess the volatility of it or the consistency of it. As I noted before, I don't have the recent dividend in here. It will upload after X dividend date. All right, that's why I got the code set up. If you come back to this in a few days, I think it should, assuming I run my code again and it will update. This should be updated with the most recent dividend. And it was like 78, 77 cents or something of that nature. So you visualize where it would be on the graph right around like the 0.8 mark. So in addition to this, I also have, this is probably my favorite chart. It shows you what the cumulative distribution is, or what if you took each monthly distribution and added it together into like a checking account and you compared it to the current ETF price. So the current ETF price is currently in light blue and the cumulative dividend is in green. And you take these two components, which you would have been paid, and you add them together. That kind of represents your total, kind of what your total return would be on the investment. So assuming you started off with $20 or a $20 fund, you can see that as of today, you would have received $27.92 in dividends, or almost $28, so almost $8 more in dividends than your initial investment even was. So you've gotten your whole investment back plus $8, plus you still have the ETF, which as of the time I ran it was $17.51. So you still have that, and that is still producing you dividends. So this will continue to add to it over time. And this is really the power of these ETFs. If you get one that can avoid significant NAV erosion, the cumulative distribution adds up over time. It's really good to visualize it because that is, I guess, when you get a year, 2 years, 3 years out from one of these investments, that's where a significant portion of your return will be. And then for those who like to reinvest their dividends, I just have this chart. This would show you that if you start with 100 shares and you reinvest your dividends at what the price was when you got the dividend, or what the X dividend on X date, what the actual dividend was. It might be a little off because I think I used the X date when technically you probably wouldn't get the dividend. So when it was actually paid out, but for all pretty close, this is where you would be if you reinvest your dividends right when you got the dividend. So if you start with 100 shares, you can see right now you'd be at over 300 shares. And this does not include the most recent dividend, as I noted before, so you'd probably be even higher than that. And then finally, this is just another way to chart what I had here. So I call this kind of all variables that at least I deem to be significant. In the yellow line down here, you got basically the distribution share price. This is shown in the yellow line just as a line. And on a y-axis, that's significantly larger. So that's your distributions you receive every month. The green line is your cumulative distributions. And you can see this up in the key or the legend up here at the top. And then the blue line is the ETF price currently. And then the purple line is if you take the cumulative dividend and you add it to the closing price of the ETF. So the purple line is if you're looking at a stock chart of a stock or something that doesn't pay a dividend and you want to compare it to this strategy, assuming you're not reinvesting your dividends, I would use the purple line if you want to get an apples comparison. But yeah, so overall, I guess NVDY has been a pretty good investment for those who have had it, I guess, since inception date. Despite the volatility now, I think it will probably continue to be a pretty good investment, but that's just my own opinion. Yeah, because people who started off with an initial investment about $2,000, you're currently sitting at, you've already got your money back in the cumulative distribution. And you saw the ETF price. Overall, that adds up to, so this would be non-reinvested dividends. So 2,000 is now $4,543. Pretty good investment, but that's just how I like to view it. Let me know if you like it as well. I'll put a link to the chart in the description, but thanks for tuning in.